another episode of Going Nowhere. Welcome again, for anyone who's watching. And as you can see, we'll be talking again about Black Mirror today because both both of us have now watched more episodes of the season. I actually watched them all. I know you haven't watched them all,
Yeah,
John.
admittedly, I've only done 3.5.
3.5 is good. I kind of really wanted to watch them all to get a better idea of the season as a whole
Do you
before I
find
kind of.
it's an anthology, but do you find they interrelate with each other at all?
Well, you'd be surprised because there were a few more episodes in the series that referenced things like San Junipero hidden in some of the other episodes as well,
Ah.
because there were a few Juniper names in
Interesting.
the episodes of
More Easter eggs.
more Easter eggs. Yes, so I noticed a couple of more of them as the season went by, but obviously the theme was very separate from one episode to another to the other. But they all had powerful stories in the end. I can't say that I was completely unmoved by any of the stories of this season, if I'm honest with you. I think
No,
every
I think this is the best season. Like, they're all good, but this is the best season for a while.
yeah, compared to seasons 5 and 6, where they both for me had episodes that left me completely unmoved. This season 7 of Black Mirror definitely has had a much higher bar to the others. So I think every episode has things you can talk about in this case.
Yeah. But we
And
chose two to speak about in our episode today. And so, don't know if you want to introduce. Well, should we say which ones they were and then go into them one by one?
yeah, go. Do you want me to? Yeah, I'll talk. Um, well, I want to talk from our first from the previous episode about the eulogy first, but now we also want to talk about the episode. Was it 5 or 6? Five, no, 4 actually,
Four,
which
yeah.
was Plaything.
Mm.
And Plaything was a very special episode, I think.
Yeah,
That
I almost didn't watch it because someone said, "Oh, that's the only one worth skipping." And
really.
it's only because you said watch that, and I was like, really? I wanted to watch it because it's got Peter Capaldi, and I love Peter Capaldi, but I was
Hmm.
thinking, oh, perhaps I'll just skip over that one.
Yeah, just a parenthesis in this. You know, a lot of people keep saying online that Black Mirror went downhill since they started using named actors, big name actors in their episodes. And I don't know why people are saying that, because even in season 1, you had quite famous actors playing in Black Mirror. And people are saying, "Oh no, it all went downhill because very famous names are now in the series." I don't understand that, because I don't think that makes any difference whether they use known actors or unknown actors.
And I think some of like Peter Capaldi was great in this episode,
Mm.
and Chris O'Dowd was very good in the first episode. So I think this season definitely disproves that thesis.
I definitely agree. Um, so Plaything,
Mm.
to make a little summary. If anyone hasn't watched it, again, a disclaimer: if you haven't watched season 7 of Black Mirror, go and rewatch it before you kind of come back to us, and because we're going to be spoiling most, I would say, of the
Yeah, we're gonna
things in
go
this
on for it.
episode. Exactly. And so Plaything revolves around this gaming journalist slash gamer himself, I suppose, who is tasked with writing a review piece on this new game that has come out that no one knows about it or knows anything about what it is, and he's given a closed doors demonstration of the game by the creator, and he is then left alone with the game, funnily enough, where he gets the chance of stealing a copy of it for him to keep, I suppose. And the game is effectively, I would describe a game where you are effectively playing God, in my mind, and you get the chance to create a new form of life, which in this case are called the Thronglets, that hatch from an egg and then they multiply on their own. And your job in the game, at first at least, is to help them grow and support them in various ways by giving them things, moving things for them, doing all kinds of things. But at first, I thought it was like Tamagotchi, like the old kind of little games where you had this little portable thing that you could hatch the Tamagotchi egg from, and then you had your little pet that you grew. But this is a completely different thing because they are actually these wronglet entities are not just a game; they are a sentient organism, effectively in this story, and everything unfolds from that point. I would say.
Mm. Is it clear that they're sentient, or could you maybe argument they are more like an artificial intelligence which appears sentient or can build itself in some recursive way, so that it's a back and forth?
I mean, yes, you're right. At the start, I would say you would not say that they were necessarily sentient, but you could see even from the beginning of when he starts the game, these little entities they start calling to him, the person who has just hatched them and he's helping them. And they're trying to tell them something, so they try to tell the person what they want. So and what they need. So I don't think that is necessarily something we kind of have in mind from artificial intelligence. We kind of I think in our minds artificial intelligence already has the knowledge, already will be already all powerful and won't need our help, I suppose. So in this case, you have the thronglets asking for the gamer to help them, or they ask for different things.
Yeah. So he stole the game. Do you think the person who created the game, he intended it? Because it's interesting, we don't see him again.
No, we don't see him again, but we had already heard that he was this kind of recluse creator that worked in mysterious ways in any way. And obviously, the game was left right there on the desk for him, I suppose, and he was left alone with it. And obviously, maybe there's an element of testing him, I suppose.
Mm.
And obviously, he took the game in this instance,
Yeah, it seems
and
that he
he's
wanted to him to take the game. So because I guess he wanted it to get out of the corporate structure because it wouldn't thrive under that environment. So he needed the business to kind of get it to a certain level, but then he was able to free it, as it were. Um, and you wonder about all the AIs we're building at the moment, whether one of them will escape, as it were, from their corporate controller.
yeah. In this episode, this of Black Mirror, if you I don't know if you remember that we learn later that the creator has actually wiped the discs and destroyed the game
Mm.
not long after the main character has stolen the game. So maybe the creator was too afraid of what he had created in many ways.
Maybe
So I
I think he actually, yeah, he liked what he's created, but he felt for those sentient, but maybe those life forms, and he wanted to free them, and this was his way of doing it.
you think so?
Yeah, so he
I,
might have said he wiped it, but I think maybe he didn't. He gave the surviving copy to the person, and then just pretended he'd wiped it.
oh, I see. I see what you mean. Maybe he hoped that someone would actually um,
Yeah, I think
help them
you
grow.
have to take his speech as genuine. Him saying, "Oh, gaming today is just built on winning and losing, fighting, and all that." And
And profit
he
as
wanted
well.
to, yeah, and he wanted to build something beyond. He saw the
Mm.
potential of that, and I think in that way he wasn't mad because in terms of the story structure, he was proof that that was kind of correct.
Mm.
Whether the Thronglets will be benevolent helpers or not is yet to be seen. But in a way, he was correct. But it advanced the species, whether that's human species or the Throng species. It did succeed in the way he would have maybe hoped.
Mm. Yeah. I agree. I mean, in many ways, uh, even even if you think of it as a game, and from my perspective as someone who plays games casually, in there has been a lot of recent cases of games that have been, let's say, not reaching their full potential because of money in many cases,
Mm.
or they've been really sabotaged in the pursuit of making more money in a way. Let's put it
That,
that way.
that was a theme that came up in USS Callister as well.
Exactly, and you saw it there as well. So it's all about money, 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 and yes, games are a product, and money has to be made from it. But it's now happening at the expense of good stories, of good experiences, of everything like that. And we need more. I wouldn't say we need a return in some ways to our roots, even in gaming,
Yeah, don't know if we're gonna get that, but
where
yeah.
where it was about having an experience more than anything.
Mm.
But no, we are getting it. There is a lot of indie games, as they're called nowadays,
Yeah, but
where
don't they always start off indie games and then they get bought up or whatever, or the founders get greedy and eventually
yeah, it's almost a
they
case
start
of
milking you as much as they can.
yeah, you either die a hero or see yourself become a villain, even in the
Yeah,
games, where you start as a great game and then you become like just a part of the corporate profit machine,
yeah.
I suppose. Anyway, going back to this episode, as we said, the guy got a copy of the game with the Thronglets, and he's hiding it from everyone, and he's taking it back home, and he's starting playing the game and starting to grow these these digital life forms. In this case, maybe that's the best way of calling them, digital
Mm.
life forms. And he's trying to communicate. He doesn't understand what they're saying because, as we said earlier, they are calling to him,
Mm.
but he doesn't know what they're saying until, funnily enough, he decides to drop some acid, and then he realizes that the Thronglets aren't just um, saying gibberish in this case, but they're actually trying to speak, trying to request something from him, and try
Mm.
to connect with him in some way. And from then on, his focus effectively becomes to do anything the Thronglets ask of him, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it's interesting the language. So it showed that they had a language, but humans couldn't understand it. Which might
I
suggest that
really.
if you think of computers as built with code, and code in a way like zeros and ones is a reflection of reality in some ways.
Mm. Well, they do say that obviously a psychedelic experience can enhance someone's awareness and open their mind to things that they don't understand or that they couldn't understand sometimes through their conscious and logical brain.
Mm.
But there is also, but in this case, one could argue that maybe he was making that up as well until the end. I wasn't convinced. I wasn't convinced if what he was actually doing was understanding what they were saying to him, or he was actually just hallucinating the whole thing.
Yeah, he looks like he's a classic sort of mad scientist guy, but the plot proves him to be in some way correct.
Exactly. I was curious up until the last minute of the episode. I was like, is he actually understanding what they're saying? Is he actually working for them, or is he actually completely tripping and doesn't understand anything, and he's just trying to do something else completely?
Yeah, in a way, yeah, we go into the episode with the presupposition he is a complete madman, or even a
Yeah,
criminal, or like an
precisely.
unintelligent homeless person, even. Uh, and all of those assumptions are turned on their head. He goes from like uh, completely insane to actually being proved correct and quite clever. Um, but also, yeah, I guess there's still an argument that he was kind of a mad guy as well. But yeah, like he was, and like we think that he's a dangerous murderer, and in a way, yeah, he was. But
Mm,
yeah, like he's not like when you see someone's killed someone,
mm,
and you just assume the worst, and that they must be like a psychopath.
yeah.
Um, but that the episode sort of explains it in a way that he gives some sort of redemption. In it wasn't as bad as perhaps we'd imagine, but yeah, obviously he killed someone. So
Yes, like to
and
me,
that's the Cain and Abel moment I've noticed there. I don't know if you picked
oh,
that
do
up,
tell. I didn't. No, I didn't think of it this way. Do
because
tell.
if you see the Bible, you've got the Genesis story, and so creation is great, and then that's Genesis 1, and then you've got the Adam and Eve, and creation is great, and then there's humans um, have sin, and then you got the Cain and Abel story, um,
Mm,
and that could, I don't know, it could be unintentional, but it did make me think of parallels with Cain and Abel at that sort of, and it was positioned in the narrative of those creatures, the froglets, as first they're in the garden, as it were,
mm.
and then we see Cain and Abel, humans fighting each other, and the froglets seem to get scared by seeing that. And
Interesting.
it'll be interesting to see whether that, if they did do a sequel to this, which I think they may do, because
Mm,
they seem to be up for doing sequels now, whether the Fronglets were are benevolent, one, and if they are not benevolent, whether this experience at their start of their journey in towards greater and greater advancement, whether that pivotal moment actually shaped why they are capable of doing not so good things.
mm. Well, just to set some context for obviously for this, obviously the the guy was growing, was helping the Thronglets thrive and grow, and he left them alone with his friend in the apartment, right? In this episode, and the guy thought that it's just a video game. He didn't know, he didn't understand that the Thronglets are a sentient life form in this case, and he started toying with them. He started killing them. He started throwing rocks at them. He started throwing fire at them, burning them, drowning them. All these things. He was literally torturing them in
Yeah,
this
and
case,
he wasn't evil at all doing that because he
and
has
he
no.
wasn't evil. No.
So in a way, yeah, like you could see why the person who becomes Peter Capaldi, or the character he plays, you could see why he's really angry because he understands they're sentient. But the other guy, he does have no idea.
Mm, mm. But this is why, to me, this whole thing had a different meaning and interpretation in my eyes, because in my mind, to the Thronglets, the character of Peter Capaldi would be God, right? And at first they cannot see him, they cannot hear him, they cannot um, connect with him in any way, but they still know he's there. They still they still have this innate feeling that they've been created by someone. So it almost feels to me like a parallel with the early humanity, where we all would believe that the natural world is part of God's creation, and we're a part of it. And then when it comes to the point where the other guy is starting to kill them, it would be effectively kind of how ancient humans would believe that the gods were responsible for a lot of natural disasters, for example, when
Yeah,
people
out of whether it's out of malice from the god's part or just out of not really caring.
exactly people back then, back in the day, that didn't understand would think that, oh, God is punishing us for something, God is hurling fire down, God is doing all these disasters on us. And then we see the Thronglets run scared when the two main characters start fighting and try to kill each other, which also comes into play with a lot of ancient religions of multitheism, where gods would fight each other as well. And in many cases this is for the future of humanity. This is for our this is this is always linked to our own survival. Which god wins is the one that will ultimately save humanity as well. So I thought this was an interesting parallel, but at the same time, they know that one of their gods, let's put it that way, tried to kill them. So I wondered that by the end of, I was wondering by the end when the Thronglets get all the power and effectively connect to every system, every technological system of humanity, and they make everyone pass out in the world, if they would actually kill us because we tried to kill them, or if they would actually try and save us or maybe subjugate us in some way.
So I guess the same thing is with the same question can be asked with AI and whether if it becomes super intelligent or if it takes over, for want of a better word, or gets to a point where it has like command over so much stuff, whether it will want us to become better as a species and sort of be benevolent in that way, or whether it will try and wipe us out because we are a potential risk, or perhaps they just don't care about us because they see it as
We're not that important anymore.
we're not really that important. Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things. But that was another someone else that I was watching online had the same take, that this was effectively a metaphor, not a metaphor, like an allegory of the AI singularity, effectively the singularity event that people are talking about. Where the people believe that in the not so distant future we're going to have this technological singularity event that will cause an enormous change for humanity and the world as a collective, where people believe this will mean that, if most people interpret that, I suppose, as the beginning of true sentient artificial intelligence. But a lot of people believe that that's not necessarily what will happen. People think that the singularity could take all forms. I'm just saying what some people believe. And people thought that this episode shows a version of that singularity event where technology truly advances in the next level that creates a major cascade event that will affect the whole humanity. Yeah.
Well, they have one supercomputer which was linked up to a camera even in the courtroom, or no, the interrogation room. So that shows that there is that like mankind has got some sort of supercomputer which is working on some sort of level of AI, and that raises a question of, if you have this overpowerful computer which can control everything and sees all things, whether it could be hacked somehow by someone who's just been in their room and is effectively designing a nuclear bomb or whatever, and he can take it down by hacking it. So, and because it's so interconnected and so powerful, then it can that would be a big risk to mankind potentially.
Yeah, it could be interesting. Yeah, I didn't think of that perspective on this episode, but as you said, it could be the case that the computer, the super powerful computer that humanity had, that looked at everything and processed everything, already had the potential to become sentient, and it was just like nudged over by the Thronglets and integrated with them.
I feel like it was probably not like, it was probably just like what we'd imagine, like an AI, very intelligent in terms of, like, it's basically ChatGPT, just can do a lot of stuff, but it's really not actually that intelligent. So this guy I met in London a few weeks ago, he was interesting because he was thinking that AI needs to almost move beyond how it's been trained, and maybe you need some sort of freedom from corporation to do that even. But he like, there was a line in the Black Mirror episode which was interesting, and he said, by talking I was feeding them data, so the more I spoke, the more articulate they got and the deeper our connection became. So that describes a recursive relationship. And this guy I met in London, he was talking about AI needing to be built in a recursive way for it to actually be perhaps truly intelligent.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that the integrated supercomputer was a base, but it wasn't actually intelligent itself.
Mm. But if you think about it, talking about recursion as well, it reminds me a little bit of the way that the machines evolved in Westworld. If you think about it, in the series Westworld, over the seasons, the machines would effectively relive the same day again and again and again. But when they were able to effectively remember and connect to the past experiences and the pain they had in the past, and do that kind of recursion of back and forth, and also with other people as well, they were able to start becoming self-aware, weren't they?
Yeah, I think Grok, Elon Musk's AI as well, is now introduced so that Grok remembers all your past chats, and so that
Mm.
will allow it to become even more recursive. Um, and also, we saw on the other day you sent me a video of these AI glasses which can see stuff,
Yes.
and so that will actually allow AI to become even more recursive because the more interactions it has with us, the more it can sort of grow. And if it
Yeah.
can remember, then
And a
it'd be
bit scary
interesting.
at the same time, you
Yeah,
know?
it could be. It doesn't really lead to anything, any great breakthrough, but it also could.
Yeah, I can see, you know, can you imagine wearing those glasses and you're trying to find something around your house for like half an hour, and then suddenly it pops up and says, "Oh, you left it there. It was
Yeah,
there all this time." And it's like, "Oh, okay."
yeah. Like people are like even if you're a technophobe and you think, oh, we need to go away from technology, and it's we've got too much technology in our lives, it's just going to be so tempting because you'll just see the practicability of all this technology. So
Hmm.
it's yeah, gonna be an interesting world.
It would be an interesting world. It would be a world that you're not allowed to forget anything,
Yeah, well,
because
if you're at work and you're against someone who has these glasses, then
everyone will have those glasses in the future. It's not going to be someone who has those. It'll be everyone that will have. Everyone will have the same technology. That will mean that you cannot say, "Oh, I didn't really say that," and someone will have the video of you saying exactly the same thing. And
yeah,
I think a lot of people will push back on that just because of the invasiveness of it.
yeah. Well, when Snapchat released their glasses like 10 or so years ago, there was always worry about, oh, are we going to have everyone filming all the time? Then
Mm.
am I not going to be able to go on the street and know that I'm not going to be filmed? Like, but it does seem like it's glasses are going to become the next mobile phone, as it were. And
Yeah,
so,
because it's not also going to be, I think, filming as in you have the video of someone doing something. It's more going to be like, oh, you'll ask the AI, did John say this? I won't need to have the video. The AI might have taken the video of us discussing something, but it,
mm,
it won't need to show me the video. It will just tell me, yes, John said it, and I'll be able to trust it enough to say, yes, you said it. You can't say you didn't because the AI database has you saying it.
yeah,
So
that's really interesting
so,
in arguments.
so it's gonna be a very interesting way of having discussions with people and solving arguments, I suppose,
Mm.
by asking our AI glasses about their opinion on what was said. But
Yeah, it seems like glasses and also neurochips are going to be the two potential next evolution of the mobile phone, effectively, where we've got all these
yes,
apps and it's got it allows us to do loads of different stuff.
well, the neurochips is the same thing that we saw in a lot of episodes of this season of Black Mirror, because it was effectively that little disc that the guy is using in the Eulogy episode of season 7,
Mm.
where he puts that disc on his head, and it's effectively operating the same way as if you had a brain implant, where he's able to dive into these images and remember his past experiences, or like relive his past experiences through that like disc, which is
Mm.
effectively a neural implant in a way, just not through not stuck in your brain.
Yeah, I think USS Callister has also got the
USS
implant.
Callister also had it exactly,
Well,
and
this is not like a thing of fiction though, because Elon Musk has already created something which does kind of work. It actually helps people, like people can play a computer game using their
Mm.
mind. And so the technology is kind of there. It's just whether, well, whether one, people sign up for it, because it's one thing having a phone in your pocket, but it's another one having a phone in your head.
Yeah, and I think it's not exactly the same thing as you're able to. It's not so fleshed out as you kind of dive into a new reality through it. It's not.
Mm,
It's not there yet. But
no.
all the episodes had them almost. I was thinking now, Hotel Reverie also had those neural discs that people were using, and they were used there as well. So it in every episode they were used to dive into a different reality, effectively, like the Matrix, getting into it.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting technology for sure.
But it
Um,
it made like having the AI chip, but in his head, Peter Capaldi, he said it made him a better human, and and that's the goal of the Fronglets with the end of the episode, is to try and upgrade all humans. So it's interesting whether to ask whether, if humans did integrate with AI, whether
mm,
it would make us better humans. Like if we always had ChatGPT like co-thinking with us at the same
mm,
time. So in every moment of our life, it's not like we're not there, but we've got ChatGPT, and a ChatGPT which knows us from all our past conversations and experiences, and we've also got us. And it's whether that would make us better or whether it would dehumanize us.
Just to play the devil's advocate, I can see. I'll play the dehumanizing angle a little bit,
Yeah.
because I can see how people would feel like they would lose some of their agency in that way. Because, as you said, there's a lot of things that happen subconsciously in our thought processing as well. And if the AI is able to already detect these things and know our subconscious thought processes, and then it comes out with an answer, I can see you thinking, oh, yeah, where did that come from? That sounds right. But then I would also question, is that truly what I want? Is that truly what I think? Or is that just what the AI tells me, and I'm
Mm.
trying to go with it? You see what I mean? A little bit, like,
Yeah. Oh, and it's also going to be very convincing. Where like we learn to trust ChatGPT and Rock or whatever, because it does sound very good, and it seems to be giving us pretty good data all the time. So in a way, it's like, like having Wikipedia with you all the time, or having a great therapist or coach with you all the time in your head. Like
and I know what you're saying, but like, I can
it's not.
see myself particularly being even though I might want to, even though I know, for example, that in this scenario, a bowl of strawberries would be good for me to have,
Mm,
and the AI would probably know in this case that I like strawberries, right? But the AI telling me, oh, this is usually the time you have strawberries this week, or something like that, or maybe you should have strawberries when I was going to grab a bar of chocolate,
yeah.
would set me off. And I'd be like, no, I'm not going to have the bowl of strawberries because I had it last week. No, I'm not going to have the bowl of strawberries because I like it.
Oh,
I'm
so
going to have a bar of chocolate
you want to
because,
do the opposite.
yeah, exactly that. Just because I
Yeah.
was told about it, I would want to do the opposite.
Yeah, and I guess there's a problem of, if we can't live without AI, like if we need AI to, like, as our self control, or as to remember certain things, like where you left your keys or whatever, then are those parts of our brains going to atrophy, or are those skills that humans have had for centuries going to atrophy?
Mm,
So that's a risk. But yeah, as you say, like the response of wanting to do the opposite to what the AI says.
mm,
But I think it's just going to respond to you, because the best product, you have to think of these as different products, and the best product will be one which outcompetes the rest, because it will say, it will work out why that you don't like getting prompted. So it might just
oh,
not
I see
do
what
it.
you mean. It's going to be playing 4D chess with me.
Yeah, so it will prompt it, but you're in control in a way, as
Yeah.
they'll say that. So you'll just be saying, please don't tell me that to do this when I want to do
Mm.
this. Or it will just work you out. It'll be like, oh, Dinos doesn't like being told when it comes to food what to eat, and so it won't do it. Or it will work out in your life your patterns of
Yeah.
why you have certain desires for certain things, and what is the best method to stop you um, getting that. But you'd have had to set it up as well. You'd have had to say,
Yeah, yeah, I know.
I want to eat healthy or whatever. But that's
I
also a
know.
problem of we're the ones choosing to set it up.
Yeah,
Which
but think about that. Yeah, but think about the next level. Think about the common people episode. What if my insurance then demands that I follow what my AI tells me?
oh, the
Because
health insurance.
otherwise my premium will go high.
Yeah,
What a dystopian scenario.
yeah, yeah. I think AI could be a really good thing for humanity, but if we
And if I
are
yeah, and
if
if I
we
don't follow it, yeah,
yeah,
go
but
on.
combined with corporatism, it could go wrong.
Yeah, that's what I mean. When everyone is forced to have health insurance and stuff, and then they say, "Oh, unless you have an active AI model that we know that it's on and that it's advising you on how to live your life, your insurance premiums will go all the way up." Same with
Mm,
your driving, if you're allowed to drive. Let's say, well, because we've seen
yeah.
that if you're allowed to drive or if you're allowed to have health insurance or any other kind of insurance, you have to follow what the AI says, and if you don't, your premium goes sky high. So I have to effectively be a slave to my AI and
Mm.
do whatever my AI says.
Or it's just like, oh, I remember when I started driving, you could get cheaper car insurance if you put a tracker in your car,
Yeah, I
which,
had the same.
yeah. So imagine a future world where your insurance company says, oh, we'll give you slightly cheaper insurance, but we have to have all the data from your
Yeah,
AI glasses or whatever to prove that you weren't doing anything unsafe. And so,
that's exactly the scenario I was kind of talking about, where
mm,
you have to give them your data of your AI, and then they'll know if you're actually living a healthy lifestyle or if you're a risky driver or all your behavior, and that will be used against you in a
yeah,
lot of ways. Yeah, scary stuff. That's why Black
mm,
Mirror is almost
close to home.
yeah. That's why it's a mirror, a dark reflection of ourselves in a way.
Black Mirror, okay.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, I never thought of it. I actually never questioned what the title meant.
That's what I thought. I don't know if that's the case, but that's what I thought about the name of Black Mirror. I thought it's like a black reflection of ourselves.
I think you could well be right. Yeah.
Um, but let's move to the. Did you want to raise any other points on this episode? I thought it was a very great episode with a lot of philosophical themes and implications about the human nature, about us as humans, and everything else. And also, from my perspective, on this episode of Black Mirror Plaything, I could um, think of it both as putting ourselves as the creators, but also as the created. In both, I think we could all, I think we could see humanity as being both the creator and the created
Mm,
in this story. So I thought it
yeah.
was a great episode all around, and I think it was one of the very well done episodes. I thought the end was a bit rushed, but all in all, I thought it was a great episode.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem of having to fit in a whole story in just an hour or so. But
Yeah.
I'm hopeful we will get a sequel, but potentially not. In a way, it works because of the ambiguity, um, and we're left to ponder. Was he actually someone who was mad, or was he someone which actually enlightened the human species and it all worked out? It reminds me of that show which got cancelled. Is it called a Messiah or something? Just
Oh yeah,
about
you
this
mentioned that to me. Yeah. Do
yeah,
tell.
like the whole thing in the first series was like, oh, is this person like the Messiah? Is he like Jesus come back effectively?
Mm.
And all the audience on every episode, you'll get some people who are saying, no, I don't think he is. I mean, some people, I think he is. And the same thing is happening with the characters in there. Some of them are like starting to think, oh, maybe he is. And then it gets a bit more convincing as it goes on, and he performs sort of things which can only be seen as miracles. And
Mm.
then, yeah, by the end, it's sort of like left on the biggest cliffhanger. It does seem like he's actually genuinely the Messiah or the Son of God, as it were. Uh,
Mm.
but we never got to see a second series of that because it got cancelled because it was too controversial.
I can see why.
But in a way, it ended at a great point because, like a very artistic point, because we still
It's
don't
left
know.
open. Yeah.
Same with this episode of Black Mirror.
And I like that. I really like when in a lot of these shows and stories, you're left to draw your own conclusions very often, and I do like that. I think that gives the viewer more power on how they want the story to have ended in a way. So leaving it open is a really good tactic because it creates more dialogue and discussion about it.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that's a good part in this case. Now, for me, I also really enjoyed the Eulogy episode, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
And a lot of people did not like that episode 5 of season 7 of Black Mirror, because I think it's not as dark as people are used to, I think, not as dystopian in a way, maybe. But I would argue that this episode is quite dystopian, and it's also very sad, but I think it's also very touching in a way by the end, to me. Because in this episode you have the premise is quite simple, really. You have this guy who's a loner. He lives alone, we see. He has no one that he is interacting with for the whole series. He's been told that someone he knew has passed away tragically for some reason, we don't know. But he's been given this technology, this little disc thing that we were talking earlier, to collect some memories of the person that died, because he knew them, for them to be used in that person's eulogy. And the AI of that system that collects the memories is directing him to use some photos of that person to prompt his memory in order to collect these experiences from him. So he kind of tries to get photos that he can go through, but it turns out that all the photos that he has of her, the person that has died, have all been smudged, so you cannot see her face. And therefore he has to really try and go through many different photos of trying to reconstruct his memories of the events of what happened with her. And we kind of learned that that person wasn't just anyone, obviously. It turns out that this person was the love of his life. And the most striking thing about it all for me was that in his mind, all the memories he had before, as he goes into its memory, he remembers things differently than how things were actually, how things played out actually in every one of these memories. He already had a version of that memory in his mind, and he had already drawn conclusions for these memories based on incomplete information. And every time he goes in with the help of AI, the AI is able to help him fill in gaps in those memories that otherwise he wouldn't have noticed, because our brain really stores memories not only just in an incomplete way, but every time. It's actually scientifically known by neuroscience that every time you actually revisit a memory in your mind, you actually slightly alter it by the way our brain works. So
It's
the
like you're
more
doing
you
Chinese
revisit,
whispers with yourself.
sorry,
It's like you're doing Chinese
yeah,
whispers with yourself.
precisely. So every time you remember something, you slightly alter it, and by the end, especially for memories that are quite old, they can be completely different to what actually has happened in
I think
them.
a lot of people think, oh, yeah, maybe that's a scientific fact, but it's not the case with me, really. But I guess
Yeah, that's what everyone likes to think. Oh, my
yeah,
memory is very good.
yeah, personally, I can't sort of imagine any memory which has been altered, but then I guess you wouldn't. So
No, you wouldn't. And if you and this, and we're not even talking about old memories. There is a lot of cases in criminal investigations in courts where eyewitnesses remember things completely different to the way that things have happened because of our memories are not only affected by the time that has passed, but also by the events themselves, by our emotional state during
Mm.
the experience of the memory, and about if it was daytime, if it was nighttime, if you're tired, if you haven't eaten. All these factors affect our memories, and you actually see this so well done in this episode by how altered the guy's memories are. The guy is fighting dragons with his memories while they're windmills in some ways. He's completely remembering things in such a different way than how they actually were.
Yeah,
And
because
that's why
he's
I thought it
he's
was.
got a narrative as well. Like he wants
And,
to explain his trauma of the past, and his a way of doing that is to change his memories, as it were. And it's what you it makes you wonder. Like, can you like by blocking out? So he blocks out the faces of her in each photograph. Can you successfully sort of forget someone or rewrite your time with them?
mm,
Is that possible for all of us to do, and what are the consequences of that?
I did think that was an interesting element to that he had actually forgotten her face by smudging all the faces from the photos he had of her. I thought that was a very interesting implication to that, because we take all this for granted these days, that we'll be able to that no one can remember someone's face easily these days, because no one can forget someone's face easily, because we have so many photos of everyone these days. People take photos all the time, so it's very hard to find someone who doesn't have a photo of someone they love in this case. But people, if you talk to your grandparents, they probably would have only a couple of photos of themselves and their loved ones back in the day, because a photo was an expensive thing. It wasn't something that you took all the time, and you had to go to a photographer, you had to be all dressed up, you had to pay a lot of money and then have your photo professionally taken. It wasn't something that everyone did all the time like we do today. And it's interesting to think that perspective as well, that people in the past, if they lost a loved one, for example, they might have had only one photo of them that they could remember them by. And if they lost that photo, they would only have to depend on their memory of them.
Mm.
And a lot of people say, I don't know if it's true, that not only the face of someone in your memory can stay for a long time, but their voice is something that is very difficult for you to remember,
Yeah,
that
no,
you'll
I've heard
hardly
that too.
remember after a few years.
But
So
I
a
guess
lot of people.
if you have a video of that person, then I would expect that once you have forgotten and then you rewatch the video, it will revive something. So it's whether we, in a way, we didn't forget because we can remember when we watch the video. Oh yeah, that's what they sounded like.
Mm,
So in a way, I wonder whether there is so much more to our brains that we just can't tap into all the time, and whether actually a lot of the stuff we think we've forgotten actually is there. And this episode taps into that in terms of looking
mm,
at would an AI, maybe if it asked the right questions, if it was trained the right
mm,
way, would it be able to help us actually recover certain memories? And
yeah.
I think the case is yes. The
Mm.
question is to what extent?
To what extent? And also, that's what I thought, that the AI can have this element of usefulness in this case, that can help us remember things, that can help us um, solve past trauma in some cases
Mm,
by reliving past experiences that have hurt us in this case. So AI can help us heal ourselves.
In a
Th-
way, it has a lot of commonalities between how people are treating psychedelics these days.
mm,
And again, and going back to the last episode of psychedelics and AI, but it is a lot of commonalities. And you might say, yeah, psychedelics, some people argue, can help you heal trauma or go back to memories and perhaps see them in a different light, maybe more accurately, maybe not. Um, and yeah, it is interesting whether to think about whether psychedelics and AI working together could actually help us remember more stuff or
Maybe the
reprocess
episode
bad memories.
Maybe this episode would have been much shorter if before he started diving into the photos he had taken some psychedelics.
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, maybe that would be an interesting take, but yeah, maybe it wouldn't last very long.
um, but everything else aside, I just thought this episode had an amazing ending because at the end of it all, he's desperate to remember her face because he has no photos of her, and his memory isn't good enough to allow him to remember up until if you remember the ending, he finds an old cassette recording of her playing the cello, and he's playing the music, and that's what I think is also very powerful. The
Yeah.
music allows him to awaken his memories and see her face one last time, and see her play the cello in the past when he was not able to remember her. And I thought that was so amazing, so heartwarming, so emotional that he was able to reconnect with her through the music, which, as we say, music is timeless. Music is it has an element of a supernatural element and a powerful spiritual element as well for us. He's able to break the walls of his consciousness and relive his favorite memory of her, where he was admiring her play the cello, and that
Yeah,
I thought
I
was
think a lot of people make comparisons between like music and other mystical experiences, whether induced by psychedelics or something else. And I think there is a lot to be said for that. Music seems to tap into, yeah, as you say, like some sort of the fabric of the universe, as it were. It seems
mm,
to be directly that or a reflection of that. That's how it works. Like if you think of how can music actually work, like why does one set of notes
mm,
create
trigger
something
something.
beautiful, and then why do one set of notes not? And I think that's suggestive is something written into us and or the universe, which means that that set of notes works. So it's
Mm.
interesting.
Yeah, I did think as well. And also, we see him actually finally going to her funeral in the end of this episode, where her daughter is playing the cello and she's playing the same music track that she was playing in his memory. And you also see everyone in that church that who's watching who's there for the funeral. They're also using one of these memory devices in on their heads,
Mm.
and I was wondering if they were using it while the daughter was playing to also relive their experiences of that person that died.
Oh, you think they were all doing their own personal memories? Because I got the impression it was they collated all this like compilation of memories from many different people, and so the people with the who were lent back in this digital
Mm,
reality were actually just going through the presentation, as it were. There's at some funerals they'll have loads of photos and they'll display them one by one from the person's life, and so one family member might have sent in some of the photos, a friend might have sent in some, and then you'll get a whole compilation of loads of photos. And that's what I got from this episode is they were using the AI to send to people so that they can retrieve memories, and
mm.
then they all sent in, as it were, their memories, and then we could create a compilation which people could at the funeral celebrate or re-experience the life that they had.
Maybe they were watching the compilation of the eulogy, and combined with the music that the daughter was playing. But I also thought maybe it was they were also listening to also reconnect with her along with their own memories. I thought they were watching their own memories of her by adding the music as well. So I thought that was maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm projecting.
Mm.
But I just thought that was a very well done episode. Much more heartwarming in the end because he got effectively his wish of seeing her again fulfilled. He was able to
Yeah.
remember her
Yeah,
and
no, it was certainly
experience.
it wasn't like obviously it's a funeral and she's dead, but yeah, like it was a more warm a Black Mirror episode than you're used to, and yeah, I guess it works because it was moving from a he was in more of a like a dark place, and
Mm,
I guess we might yeah res- read into the episode that yeah, a lot of what was behind his alcoholism was a misinterpretation of past events, and in a way, it's tragic. But he's lived the best years of his life based on a faulty memory, which I
Mm.
guess is probably the case for quite a lot of us. Um, but yeah, so that was a little bit tragic, but we did have a positive ending, and maybe we're as an audience we're indicated that he actually can maybe get over it, his trauma now, and actually live.
Yeah, there is this element to it, but as you said, obviously, it was really a punch in the gut when you realize halfway through that she left him a note that he never read,
Yeah,
where she kind of it was a huge misunderstanding, effectively.
yeah, no,
That
that's like the most tragic thing is not necessarily dying in like a terrible accident, although that's definitely tragic, but it's in a way of just the slight little things, slight coincidences which just don't work, which like reading, not reading something at the right time or misinterpreting just one little thing
mm,
can have a huge effect on the rest of our lives.
yeah, and I think this is what is emphasized there: all the wasted potential and the wasted opportunity that was there and was never it was never taken, the path that was never taken, effectively. This is what it was all about, that he
Yeah,
had the choice to be with her, but because of the misunderstanding he did not realize it. And also it's emphasized again that despite the technology, despite how far technology has come, and despite him being able to go back on his memories and relive his experiences and see her and all this, the tragic thing is that there's some things that have happened and they can never be changed now, and we can never come back from them, despite how much
yeah.
technology we have.
Yeah, I guess one thing that technology is probably will never get its fingerprints on is the past. It's I think most physicists would agree that it's very hard to travel back in time and
Precisely.
probably impossible. Potentially, we can speed up our experience of time and go into the future, but it seems like time travel to the past is
Mm.
definitely off the table. And so, however good our technology gets, it's unlikely to happen.
And exactly that makes it even more tragic. Some things are set in stone and they can never be changed, no matter
Mm.
what. And I thought that was like a very good overarching theme. You cannot swim in the same river twice. That's
Yeah,
it.
Heraclitus.
Exactly.
Mm.
Thought you'd like that.
Yeah, but I guess also you could read that. You can read that negatively, but you could also read it positively in terms of for river, for water to flow, for life to flow requires the time. Time is that
Yes.
river, as it were, because if we if we pause time or cling on to it, then we can't move. In the time requires the past to die and the future for the future to come into being.
Mm, precisely. There is, yes. Yes. There has to be flow, one way or another.
Yeah.
But all in all, I was really amazed. And my next one that I'm going to watch, I'm going to say it now in our podcast, is that I'll be watching the new season of Love, Death, and Robots that is going to come up.
Mm.
And it's very similar. All of these are the Love, Death, and Robots series is effectively, again, another anthology series, but this is animated in this case, where it's a lot of mini stories, much shorter than Black Mirror stories, where they're animated in all sorts of different animation styles, and they all have a little bit of the Black Mirror elements to them. Sometimes some good stories, sometimes some dystopian stories, sometimes some sad stories. And I would recommend to other people to watch that as well.
Yeah, I've never watched it, but now you mentioned it is on my rather long to watch list, so I may or may not get to it.
Fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, I
Yeah,
would
I do
recommend
wonder
it
how
anyway.
all these predictions of the future, how like, are they going to be compelling to watch in 10, 20, 50 years? Or is it just a matter of our time? Because I don't know what you think, but like, is there much compelling science fiction which tries to predict the future, like compelling science fiction from say 40 years ago. I guess you could say, what's the one with Marty McFly and Back to the Future? How did I forget that?
Mm.
Yeah, like that tries to kind of predict the future, but I think it was like Black Mirror and maybe Love, Death and Robots. I haven't watched it. It's the whole premise is about predicting the future. That's the whole thing that makes it compelling. Whereas Back to the Future, where it's kind of in the title, like I think it was more about the story, which made that
Mm.
compelling, and that's you could argue why it has lasted the test of time, not their predictions of what we'll get in the future.
Yeah, but I think Back to the Future isn't so much about like predicting the technology as such. I mean, if you think about it, Star Trek back in the day was a great way. It has a lot of things from Star Trek have come to life. Like they used to have these kind of communicator devices, which are effectively the modern phones and stuff like that. So these have been the inspiration. Star Trek was the inspiration back in the day for a lot of tech entrepreneurs to actually get new things out.
Yeah, it's
So
interesting how
I hope
predicting.
that Black Mirror isn't the inspiration for the
Yeah,
tech
I guess that's the
entrepreneurs of the
problem.
future.
Yeah, like Black Mirror is supposed to be warning about us about this stuff, but also there's a risk is actually tempting it. It's like drug education classes at school. Like, how far do you go into it? Because in a way, you want your pupils to be educated on this stuff, but then if you educate them, then they perhaps are more able to understand it and actually take drugs, which are perhaps not good for them. So yeah, it's interesting.
Precisely that, and that's my fear. Don't want to give them any ideas.
Yeah, but I guess everything that's possible will probably happen in a given time.
Yeah, I do think so as well. Well, I can see we're almost at the end of our episode. So I didn't know if you had any final comments or words about the season, because I'm sure we've covered most of the important things we want to talk about.
Yeah, no, I thought it was nice to have some more Black Mirror back in my life. It's been a few years.
Mm, I agree. I thought it was a very good experience, and all in all, a great season that I would definitely recommend.